Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. What happens when a secret meant to stay buried suddenly lands right on the table? And what happens when the person hiding that secret realizes the truth is about to explode? In a tense meeting inside a quiet cafe, a confrontation between Phyllis Summers and Tessa Porter spirals out of control. What begins as a quiet accusation quickly turns into a shocking public moment that could destroy reputations, relationships, and possibly change the power dynamics of Genoa City forever. The atmosphere inside the cafe was calm on the surface, but for Phyllis Summers, nothing about this moment felt calm. She stood near the window, gripping a warm coffee cup in her hands, but the comfort of the drink did nothing to steady her nerves. Anyone who knew Phyllis understood what she normally thrived in situations filled with drama, manipulation, and carefully orchestrated secrets. Chaos was her playground. But today felt different. The secret she was guarding wasn't just another clever scheme or a harmless trick. This one carried real consequences, consequences that could blow back on her life in ways she couldn't control. Every few seconds, her eyes darted toward the cafe entrance. She tried to keep her posture relaxed, tried to maintain that familiar air of confidence she wore like armor. But there were cracks forming in that mask. Her fingers trembled slightly against the ceramic mug, and though most people in the cafe were too busy with their own conversations to notice, the tension inside her was building like pressure inside a sealed container. Then the door opened. Tessa Porter stepped inside. The moment she entered, her eyes scanned the room quickly until they locked onto Phyllis. Tessa's face looked calm at first glance, almost neutral, but there was something colder beneath the calm exterior. There was a sharp determination in her gaze that immediately made Phyllis feel a twist of dread in her stomach. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The background noise of the cafe continued around them. The quiet chatter of customers, the hum of the espresso machines, the occasional clink of cups and plates. But despite the ordinary sounds, there was an invisible tension forming between the two women that everyone nearby could almost feel. Tessa began walking toward the table, her movements slow and deliberate. Each step felt calculated, as if she were approaching someone who had finally reached the end of a long trail of lies. Phyllis leaned back in her chair and forced a casual smile. She had played this game before. Confidence was her strongest weapon. Well, she said lightly, raising an eyebrow. This is unexpected. What brings you here? But Tessa didn't return the smile. She didn't even bother sitting down. Instead, she calmly reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope without saying a word. She placed it directly on the table between them. The moment Phyllis saw it, something shifted in her expression. Just for a fraction of a second, the confident facade cracked. The envelope wasn't supposed to exist anymore. It was supposed to be hidden, buried so deep that no one would ever find it. And yet here it was, sitting just inches away from her hand like a silent threat waiting to explode. Tessa leaned slightly closer, lowering her voice so no one else could hear. You want to explain why your name is all over this? She asked quietly. The words hit Phyllis like a sudden punch. Slowly, carefully, she picked up the envelope, trying to look indifferent even though her pulse had begun racing. Inside were several documents, copies of financial transfers, private communications, and a security photograph taken weeks earlier outside the offices of Newman Enterprises. Together, those pieces told a very dangerous story. The evidence pointed toward a shocking conclusion. Phyllis had secretly paid someone to sabotage a major business deal connected to Nick Newman and his partners. If that information ever reached the wrong people, the fallout would be catastrophic. It wouldn't just damage her reputation, it would destroy her relationship with Nick, break the fragile trust she had rebuilt with her daughter Summer Newman, and possibly turn half of Genoa City against her. Phyllis slowly lifted her eyes to meet Tessa's. "Where did you get this?" she asked sharply. Tessa crossed her arms calmly. "That's not the question you should be asking," she replied. She leaned forward slightly, her voice firm. "The real question is why you did it." Phyllis let out a cold laugh, but the sound lacked its usual strength. "You think you understand what you're looking at?" She scoffed. "You have no idea how business works around here." But Tessa wasn't intimidated. "Don't twist this," she said. "You sabotaged Nick's deal. You set him up, Phyllis. And when the truth comes out, people are going to see exactly who you really are." That statement struck a nerve. Suddenly, Phyllis shot to her feet, her chair scraping loudly across the floor. Several people nearby turned their heads, sensing that the situation had escalated. "Careful," Phyllis warned, her voice low and threatening. "You're throwing around accusations you can't prove." Tessa's eyes narrowed. "Oh, I can prove it." She taped the documents on the table. "And if I take this to Nick, or even worse, to Victor Newman, you know exactly what happens next." The name Victor Newman changed everything. Phyllis felt a chill run through her body. Victor didn't simply get angry at people who crossed him, he destroyed him completely. If he believed Phyllis had interfered with Newman Enterprises, she could lose everything she had in Genoa City. For a brief moment, silence filled the space between them again. It almost seemed like Phyllis might try to negotiate, maybe apologize, maybe find a way to smooth things over, but Phyllis Summers had never been someone who surrendered quietly. Instead, the anger inside her erupted. "You think you are so perfect," she snapped. "You think you are better than me?" Tessa didn't flinch. "I think Nick deserves the truth." That was the breaking point. Without warning, Phyllis' hand flew through the air. Smack! The sound of the slap echoed loudly through the cafe. Tessa stumbled slightly from the sudden impact, instinctively bringing her hand to her cheek as the sting spread across her face. The entire room froze. Conversations stopped. The barista paused mid-order. Every eye in the cafe turned toward the confrontation unfolding in front of them. Phyllis stood there breathing heavily, her eyes burning with fury and desperation. For a moment, it almost looked like she might regret what she had just done. But instead, she leaned closer to Tessa and spoke 6 chilling words that made the moment even darker. "Tell anyone and your life is over." The threat hung in the air like a storm cloud. Tessa slowly lifted her head, disbelief and anger flashing in her eyes. "Did you just threaten me?" she asked quietly. Phyllis straightened herself, regaining some of her composure. "No," she said calmly. "I've warned you." But something neither woman realized was happening across the room. Someone had quietly taken out their phone, and they were recording everything. Tessa took a slow breath, steadying herself. "You just made a huge mistake," she said. Phyllis folded her arms. "No," she replied coldly. "You did. When you started digging into things that don't concern you." Tessa grabbed the envelope again. "This concerns everyone you have lied to," she said. "Nick, Summer, even Maria." At the mention of the Maria Copeland, Phyllis' expression flickered briefly. She knew that hurting Maria could start a conflict she might not win, but she refused to show weakness. "Go ahead," Phyllis challenged. "Run to them with your little theory. Let's see who they believe." Tessa studied her carefully. "You're scared," she said softly. Phyllis laughed again, but it sounded hollow. "Of you? Please." Tessa slowly shook her head. "Not of me," she replied, "of the truth." Those words cut deeper than anything else. For a moment, the confident mask on Phyllis' face cracked again. revealing the panic underneath, because deep down she knew something terrifying. If Nick ever discovered that she had secretly betrayed him, everything she had spent years rebuilding would collapse. Tessa turned and walked toward the door. Just before leaving, she paused. You think that slap scares me? She said without turning around. It just proved I am right. Then she walked out of the cafe, leaving Phyllis standing alone in stunned silence. But the real shock was waiting outside. As soon as Tessa stepped onto the street, she pulled out her phone. A message had already arrived. Attached was a short video clip, the exact moment Phyllis slapped her and delivered that chilling threat. Someone in the cafe had recorded everything, and suddenly, the secret Phyllis had fought so hard to hide was on the verge of becoming the biggest scandal Genoa City had seen in years. If this video spreads, and let's be honest, in today's world, it almost certainly will, the consequences could be explosive. Phyllis doesn't just face a damaged reputation, she risks losing the trust of Nick Newman completely. Her relationship with her daughter Summer could fracture again, and if Victor Newman gets involved, the situation could escalate into something far more dangerous for her career, her social standing, or her future in generosity. A single moment of anger might end up triggering a chain reaction that Phyllis can control. Honestly, this is the kind of moment where emotions completely override strategy. Phyllis is known for being calculating and manipulative, but this time she let anger take control, and that's where she made her biggest mistake, slapping Tessa in a public place and then threatening her. That's the exact kind of behavior that turns suspicion into proof. Instead of shutting the situation down, she just poured gasoline on the fire. So now the question is, what happens next? Will Tessa expose everything and break the truth to Nick and Victor? Or will Phyllis somehow find a way to stop this scandal before it explodes across Genoa City? I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Phyllis can recover from this? Or is this the moment that finally destroys her reputation? Drop your opinion in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest drama and shocking moments.